in post-apartheid South Africa, we entered in 1994 having all this beautiful historical engagement by women who struggled against a racial, institutionalized racism. It was institutionalized because bezipaswa ezipalamente zezenzwe i-laws sipasisa ukuthi abantu abamnyama bawucinezeleke ngolhlobo. And then really imizabalazo turn around those things, and indeed in 1994 sabona a promised land that we will be free. Indeed, the Freedom Charter will be used to liberate these people. A new constitution was adopted in 1996, and many other laws to give effect to the constitution were promulgated. So during that period in 1994 to about 96, when they were busy, we saw as a proliferation of non-governmental organizations, women's movement, women-led trade unions, women's rural movement, gender structures or committees in trade unions again, or a desk in those trade unions, and also women's societies, imibutho ekuhlaleni eziyabathi zistokvel and those things. And when we want to look at what is the role and what was the role during that dispensation of these movements in our communities. So many NGO-led movements continued to campaign around women's issues, children's issues, which in any case are women's issues. These women's structures contributed enormously in making sure that gender issues were institutionalized in the construction of our new democracy. And hence, we saw institutions like the CGE, the Commission on Gender Equality, the grants, child support grants, the campaigns around also basic income grant, whether they were successful or not, but these are the struggles that women were engaged in at that time. Issues, NGOs that stood up for gender-based violence, who campaigned for that. We saw NGOs that were engaged in campaigns around optimum access to health, and in particular treatment for HIV, the treatment action campaigns. We saw those movements. As much as TAC was not really a women-led, but the advocacy of their campaign was informed by the fact that women's economic dependence to men make them vulnerable, and hence you find that large numbers of women get infected with HIV. Although not much has been achieved today, and I'll say in particular to issues of service delivery and also in the labor movement, but this would not have been possible if it was not for the role that was played by women in those NGOs or women-led NGOs. As a result, what we see today is a regression of those gains that were won during and after apartheid. And the regression is as a result of the economic policies that have been adopted by the African National Congress-led government, the economic policies that have been embraced by the Democratic Alliance in the province and other opposition parties in parliament. So the growth and employment and redistribution policy is the one today that has made the position of women vulnerable. How has this policy negatively affected women, and what have women done to struggle against those challenges? Although women have been involved in service delivery protestations, there have been campaigns around big, as I said earlier, child support grant campaigns against gender-based violence. We have not seen much intensification and consolidation of these struggles. that are led by women are for women. They have either been once-off occasions, or these efforts have died or die a slow death. And there are many reasons, valid reasons, to these obstacles, some of which are out of the comrades' control. And one would be the high levels of poverty, inequality, and unemployment that still exist. And some in the NGOs that are spearheading these struggles that would be restricted and driven by donor requirements instead of being driven by the people that have the needs. So in turn, the agenda and struggles end up not being owned by women in those communities or women that are affected, but rather driven by the agenda of the donors. Also, liberal thinking amongst black and white have the tendency of dictating also again what must be on the table, how struggles must be run, people being informed instead of people taking up struggles on their own and engage as they wish, because they are the ones that actually feel the pain. And this tendency has often avoided in engaging the root causes of why today is as is, like instead critiquing or making people aware that as long as we've got neoliberal blueprint policies, the situation will remain, because the policies are merely talking or merely concerned about business facilitating a way, but not the working class or the poor.